Welcome to the chapter 17 of the discussion today, which is on empowerment and participation. In this chapter, we are going to cover in details the what is empowerment, how empowerment is done in an organization, why it is important for the organization to empower its employees, and to what extent empowerment can be done and for what aspects. And we are also going to see like what do we mean by workers participation and the different ways of workers participation in management and how it is utilized for better organizational performance. So, the objectives of this chapter are to develop an understanding of empowerment, the process of empowerment. We are going to discuss the Randolph's empowerment model, strategic performance empowerment model, and here we are going to discuss about participation, the features of workers' participation in management, benefits of participation, prerequisites of participation, expectations from employees and managers, programs for participation and guidelines for participation. So, first we will try to discuss what is empowerment. So, as you can see, empowerment is a process that provides greater autonomy to the employees through the process of sharing relevant information which are necessary for decision making, major decision making of the organization, and allowing them to make certain decisions at their own levels regarding how they can do certain jobs. So, sharing of information and the provision of control over certain factors are the major issues of empowerment, because these factors affect job performance, and if the employees have control over those factors and have relevant information regarding how to do certain jobs, then performance of that jobs becomes easy. So, empowerment again helps to remove the conditions which cause powerlessness in the organization, and it enhances self efficacy of the employees. So, it enables employees to cope with situations, and it helps them to take control of over the problems as they arise. They do not have to wait for decisions to arrive and suggestions regarding how to do certain things. So, they are in total control of their situation, and this gives rise to a feeling of self efficacy. Next, we will try to see what are the broad approaches to empowerment. First approach is that of helping employees to achieve job mastery. So, when you are talking of job mastery and helping employees to achieve job mastery, means we are giving proper training, coaching and guidance to them, which will result in their initial success, allowing them more control, allowing the employees more control over the situation. In this, what happens when they get more control, then another counterpart of it is of course accountability for whatever they are doing in the organization. So, once you get a control, you are also accountable for each and every move of yours in the organization and the steps that you take in the decision making process for doing a particular job. So, control gives you discretion, but it also makes you responsible for the acts that you do. Next is providing successful role models to the employees. So, what is this? In role models, employees are allowed to observe people who have already performed well on a certain job, and by observing them they can learn many things. So, next is giving reinforcement and persuasion, is giving praise to the employees, encouragement and verbal feedback which will help to raise their self confidence. And of course, is last point is giving them emotional support which will help them to help them to reduce the stress and anxiety, because the role is defined properly, they are assisted in their task, and the caring atmosphere is there in the organization which nurtures their potential to take independent decisions. So, these are 5 broad approaches to empowerment in organization. So, some of the behavioral tools which are there to deal with powerlessness in the organization are like mutual goal setting, then giving a proper feedback about the job, then modeling, like setting a model in front whom the people can observe and do things, and designing a contingent reward system which is dependent on how well you do certain things and the decisions you take and how you be as a part of the team and all these factors. So, these are some of the tools to deal with the powerlessness problem in the organization. So, another important program is of course that of participative management, which helps employees to take proper decision for the organization in certain aspects, like by giving inputs at various points of decision making process, because in this case what happens, like employees are given varying degrees of ownership. They gain ownership by participating in the decision making process. So, these are some of the tools that managers have in their hands to deal with the problem of powerlessness in the organization. If you can see from here, like conditions of powerlessness can be removed by certain changes brought in the organization, changing in the leadership style, changing in the reward system, changing in the nature of the job itself, like making people more involved, giving more autonomy and all these factors. Job related self efficacy can be increased by increasing job mastery, control and accountability, role models, reinforcement and support, emotional support that we are talking of. These two things can combine to give a feeling, a perception of empowerment, means where the employees feel like their competence is getting used, they are given high value in the organization, the job that they are doing is meaningful to them, and there is an increased use of their talent. So, when they perceive the degree of empowerment in the organization, it ultimately leads to their increase in performance level. So, the conditions present in the organization to remove the powerlessness, then if self efficacy is enhanced through different measures, then it gives rise to a perception like we are empowered, and that will of course lead to a better performance. We will discuss here Randall's empowerment model. First is the first step of which is sharing of information. So, when you are talking of sharing of information, we mean sharing company performance information then we are helping people to understand the business, then build trust through sharing sensitive information and create self-monitoring possibilities. So, where person can judge for himself or herself, like what and how they should do certain things. So, these are certain steps when we talk of sharing of information. Next is the autonomy should be, if we tell like we will give you autonomy, but the structure of the organization doesn't provide that autonomy, then empowerment is not possible. So, after sharing of information, the next important step that should be taken by the organization is autonomy, which is provided through the structure of the organization. So, first step is create a clear vision about the organization and the what are the expectations of the organization, and clarify small pictures about how to do certain things. Then create new decision making rules that support empowerment. So, now if the decision making rule is such like only the leader can take the decision and the others around have to follow it, then maybe empowerment is not possible if it is there in certain organization. So, so it is required that a new decision making rules are given, like if everybody has to contribute towards the decision making. If that is made as a rule, then maybe empowerment is possible. Next is clarify roles and goals collaboratively. So, when there is atmosphere of collaboration, then of course everybody is going to contribute towards like the decision of how things need to be done. Establish new empowering performance management processes. So, then again performance management processes, if it is once the yardstick for measuring empowered performance measurement processes is different from when one performs under like decisions are given and they are just working it out. So, accountability, bringing in accountability in whatever the performance is, the quality of that performance. So, these things we have to decide when we are talking of establishing new empowering performance management processes, because that is a when you are talking of empowering performance management processes, these are more mature ways of doing things, where we treat like the employees are mature enough and well developed enough to take decisions for the organizations, and the yardsticks for measuring those performances are quite different when we take the employees not capable of any decision making and we just want to act them out what major instructions are given from top. So, that is how we have to set different parameters for it. And but again, for this what is required is use heavy doses of training. So, training for empowerment is very much essential. We have to culture that, we have to nurture that in the employees step by step, because today we tell like tomorrow you start your own decision making process, and you will be solely responsible for the decisions that you take, may develop stress in the employees. So, it's enough of training is required to gradually develop in them the feeling of self-efficacy, the belief in themselves, like yes, they can also make certain decisions. There could be certain errors, and the organization has to be tolerable of those errors at the initial days of empowerment, because otherwise they will be, not be very comfortable with the process of empowerment, because if they are punished for certain errors, because people learn from errors only, like what to do and how to do things, and how to reduce those errors also could be the one of the parts of the training process. Let teams become the hierarchy. So, this again will talk of like providing direction and training for new skills, providing encouragement and support for a change. So, gradually have managers to let go of the control, work through the leadership vacuum stage, acknowledge the fear factor. So, here what we find, like when teams are themselves making the decisions, sometimes fear maybe they're like whether we are on the right path, how do we know whether we are on the right path, who is going to give us the green signal like yes, we are doing things rightly, and whom do we look up to, like when we are not able to do certain things. So, certain questions are there in the people's mind when we are going for empowerment, and we have to deal, which may lead to certain fear in them. So, these we have to know, like these questions will be there, and we have to gradually remove these fear factors by small, like detailed training program, and giving small direction of not what to do, what to decide, but how to make decisions. So, those things, and how to adjust with each other, collaborate with each other, how to utilize the best part, best potential of each other while going for a decision making. That training regarding that how part is very important for encouraging the empowerment process in the organization, and that has to be done very gradually. The strategic performance empowerment model, in this what happens is, within the strategic performance empowerment model, there are three key variables, like first is of course coaching or mentoring, and second peer and supervisor modeling, third is career path development and strategies. So, these three things must be present to provide employees the guidance, like whom to observe, like if you are going to make a certain decisions, whose style do you observe, then how do you make a proper decision. These things we get to know only by being in contact, observing, noticing someone who is making good, who is a good decision maker, like how that person tackles the difficult situations, what are his responses or her responses to particular problems. All these things we can learn only by observing, and those things, and also maybe guidance and mentoring given. So, mentoring, observing someone either as either someone of the peers or the supervisor as a role model, and having a career path stated in front, like when empowerment is there, then how do you move about in the organization. So, these things must be there to provide employees, so the guidance, like to become necessarily empowered employees. So, how do you develop your career path, and what strategies do you take for it, like how do you take proper decisions, and if you are contributing to the decisions, then in that case what we'll try to see, like here this career path could be like more of like competence based, merit based, rather than more of seniority based. So when we're talking of empowering employees, empowered employees, the whole organization has to be ready to absorb this situation when we are having empowered employees in the organization. It's not that we empower the employees, we tell like we are empowering the employees for decision making, but when it comes to reward system, when it comes to career path development, when it comes to like supervisor and the team members, or the relationship, when it comes to peer group relationships, the environment not very conducive enough to receive, assimilate that concept of empowerment, then empowered employees cannot function properly in the organization. So when you're talking of empowering employees, the whole organization has to be ready to accept and welcome that process of empowerment of the employees. When we are talking of participation in management, first again we should understand what we mean by participation. And before we again move into this discussion of what is participation, because this is an extension of the concept of empowerment, and when we are talking of empowering employees only, then only we can think of them participating in certain of the decision making process and thinking them as important contributors to the organization or decision making, and involving them in the process and taking their suggestions and working on those suggestions. But again we have to think of like in Randall's model we were talking of sharing of information, we are talking of again autonomy given to the employees, but all these things should be, it should not be done at a very random way, in the sense when you're talking of empowering employees and sharing of information, before we do that we have to ask several questions to ourselves, in the sense like empowerment is good. Definitely it's good for the organization's decision making, and we should share information with the employees, otherwise how do they decide, how do they know what to decide about. But again we should be prudent enough to understand what type of information we should be sharing, and to again like to what extent, so and to till what levels in the organization. So these questions should be answered first in our mind before we go for sharing of information. Like, do we share all the informations including which are very crucial to and decision making for the organization's survival, or should it be shared to all the levels, or these sharing should stop after a certain level and other information should pass down, like decisions, informations which are very important, very important for strategic decisions, some important strategic decisions. So regarding the organization's survival, should this be shared to all the levels, or it should stop after a certain level and other informations may come down. So come to all the levels. So it's entirely depends on the organization's top bodies decision making. There is no hard and fast rule like this information will move to this level, that cannot be shared with everyone. It depends on what you decide to do and how you are treating your employees, and of course how developed, matured, ethical your employees are to do justice to the information shared with them. And what use do they put that information into and contribute to the decision making process. So, these things are very important. It is not that you just decide like, and whether they are ready when you are talking of autonomy given to the employees. So, we have to take into consideration whether they are comfortable with this autonomy or this autonomy is a threat to them. What is the growth need pattern? Do all of the employees present in the organization, they love to be self decision makers, or some of them love to be guided also. So, these things have to be taken into consideration before we think of empowerment and the process we take for empowerment in the organization. Next, we move on to participation in the organization. So, what we see like participation is the mental and emotional involvement of people in group situations, then which helps them to contribute to group goals and share responsibility for them. So, this is again three important points in this definition. One is of course involvement, your emotional, mental and emotional involvement for the group decision making, contributing to the group's ideas and all these things. Next is what is that you contribute. So, what is your positive contribution and what responsibility do you take for whatever actions you do for the group, and what parts of group's responsibility you share also. So, these are three important things when we are talking of participation in the organization. So, features of workers' participation, if you see, is like give a sense of harmony in the organization, industrial harmony, because if the workers are involved in the decision making process, then they are made responsible and asked to contribute in the decision making process, because they are a part of the decision making process. Later on, what happens, like they are also responsible for the decision being taken, and they cannot back out from the situation telling like, okay, we were not involved or we were not consulted. So, whatever decision is taken, it's a joint decision, and that ownership for the decision is also there, and it sometimes it leads to industrial harmony, because it is no longer like we and they situation, it is us, because both the parties have reached to a particular decision by consulting with each other and taking each other's views into consideration. It develops a sense of commitment in the organization, a sense of belongingness also, because we feel like the respect has been given. The employees feel like the respect has been given to us, and we were also considered important for running of the organization, and our views were asked. So, it gives a sense of belongingness, and it develops good communication skills. So, because we have to make others understand our viewpoints, so it has to be well communicated with proper feedback, the facts have to be explained properly. So, it develops good communication skill, and it handles the resistance, like if somebody is protesting like we were not, our views were not taken care of, we were not consulted in the decision making process, these resistances generally lowered because the involvement was there in the decision making process. Secondary objectives of workers' participation in the management is, of course, it's economical, in the sense like when there is resistance, there is work stoppage and absenteeism, all these factors may affect the production process and may lead to economical loss, but it's not that. So, in that case, we gain in that way also, and work is fast and its quality is good because everybody was involved in how to do things, what things to do, and what are the steps to be taken. So, it is more cost saving, time saving, so it's more economical in that way. Social, because it brings the, as we told, like the two groups, the management and the employees group, more closer to each other. It is no more a we they type of situation, it is us situation where all are involved in the decision making process. It develops a good bonding between the management and the employees, and they think like jointly they can contribute to the organization's performance and let the organization progress for it. So, it is a social benefit also, social objective, and psychological, of course, it gives a sense of esteem, it improves self esteem, because we have been recognized for as important contributors to the decision making. This is an important feeling for the employees, in the sense it increases their self and social esteem and self respect also, and gives a good feeling to the employees. So, this is a psychological thing also, and it develops more involvement, like good feeling for the organization, a sense of attachment to the organization. So, because we were consulted, this is like our family for whom we are deciding. So, we need to be very careful about this particular organization, we need to care about this organization, or some of the psychological feelings that may develop in the employee's mind. So, these are the secondary objectives also of workers' participation in management. So, the corresponding merits of workers' participation in management, as we were already discussing, we can see like it is increased productivity, then increased efficiency of employees, establish industrial peace, establish industrial democracy, well-being of the individual, then personality development, and mutual understanding between the management group and the employees group, and social well-being of the employees, welcome changes. So, changes are not resisted, and but it is welcome, and rapid industrialization, because the productivity is there and with increased efficiency of employees. So, there could be a spread in industrialization process, and because seeing organizations performance, others are also encouraged and the business spreads. So, that is where there is a rapid industrialization. So, these are some of the benefits of workers' participation in management. Demerits of workers' participation of management could be also like inactive trade union. So, what happens, like the trade unions, if you are taking the functions of the trade union, not from a positive aspect, but from a negative aspect of the understanding of the term, as we generally understand the function of the trade union is to flourish, is to nurture when there is a gap between the what employees want and what management can provide. When there is a disparity in that, that is the playing ground for the trade unions to flourish. But when there is a workers' participation in management and workers are consulted in the decision making process, their views are taken into consideration also, then trade union doesn't have a proper playing ground where they can flourish. So that makes them inactive to certain extent, if we take this connotation of the function of trade union in mind. So that leads to inactive trade union. Also, it can lead to chances of suspicion, in the sense workers may think like, why these people, top people, are trying to share information with us, trying to involve us in the decision making process. Could be like in future we will be so much taken away, will be so much mesmerized by their saying or their ways of doing things, or will be so much influenced by being a part of their decision making, like we cannot protest in future or ask for our own benefits which the employers may not want to give. And so these could lead to chances of suspicion, like why or not they are trying to involve us in the decision making process, because maybe this is in guise they are trying to deprive us in future of certain benefits, which like because they are involving us in the decision making process, then out of shame or guilt maybe we will not be able to ask for those protests against the wrongs done to us. And so because we will feel like, okay, they have involved us in the decision making, they have given so much respect to us, recognition to us, how can we go and ask for these things from them? So this feeling may give rise to feeling of suspicion in the employee's mind. Employee may lead a careless life if because if in the sense like it's social, this being like they have given a chance to participate, their lifestyle improves, so they may think like they can start misusing the benefits that they are getting from the organization. Could be, but this depends on the employee's nature, particular employee's nature, and we cannot generalize this statement. So it may give rise to industrial anarchy, in the sense like if there is a rapid industrialization, then others professions may people will not go for other professions which will be hampered. So these could be the possibilities when we are talking of demerits of workers' participation of management, from a greater, like some from the within the organization and some from greater social aspect of it. So we should take care of certain of these issues. What are the prerequisites for participation are, like the employees should be given adequate time to participate. So it's not that today you are asked like, if okay, come and participate. They should be prepared to participate, they should be trained to how to participate in certain actions, how to contribute properly to certain things. So that should be there, so adequate time to participate. Potential benefits greater than costs. So this is when we are talking of like the feeling of suspicion. So, we should understand that message should go to the employees about like what are the costs that they are thinking of involved in the times in the terms of their some of the psychological costs even, and what they are maybe apprehending, and the benefits and the comparative benefits that they gain out of workers' participation in management. So, these potential benefits are much more greater than the costs involved in the workers' participation process in the management, and this message has to be conveyed to the employees. And those things, regarding those things, participation should be sought initially which are relevant to the employees' interest. Otherwise, they won't gain that enthusiasm to participate in the decision making process if the issues are somewhat not directly connected with some of their interest areas. Then the employees should be adequately skilled enough to participate in the decision making and and decide about the subject and deal with the subject that is being discussed as a part of this participation. Otherwise, if they do not have these abilities to deal with the subject about which their participation is sought and their contribution is sought, then they will be mere observers in the whole process without being able to contribute, and the major decision will be taken by the other party. So, adequate employee abilities to deal with the subject. Mutual ability to communicate. So, they should be able to communicate with each other in their languages which is understandable by both the parties. So, then no feeling of threat to either party. So, they should not be under the threat like, okay, if we participate and take certain decisions, then maybe the other employees they may feel deprived and they may not take it in the proper spirit, or the manager should not be under the threat like if they are allowed to participate, they will think like we are both on the same platform of power sharing, and they may create unnecessary pressure on us. So, these are certain aspects of the prerequisites of participation. Contingency factors are for employees' participation in management. First is of course differing employee needs for participation. So, what we saw initially and what we discussed also, like employees vary in their degrees for whether they want to participate or not, and so it may happen like the same level of participation is not enjoyed by all the employees, and they may feel it, some may feel it to be a threat to participate. So, we have to keep those things in mind. Then responsibilities of employees and manager. So, we have to understand like it's employees have to understand the facts also, that the opportunities provided to them in the sense of being able to participate in the decision making process regarding maybe issues concerned with them directly, with the employees directly, hand in hand brings in their set of responsibilities also for the decisions that they have taken and their ownership of the decision and accountability for whatever they are doing as a part of the implementing the decision and acting on it. So, the responsibility is one of the important factors which comes along with the chance to participate in the decision making process, and this has to be realized by the employees. What are the expectations for employees? As we can see, like be fully responsible for their actions and their consequences, operate within the relevant organizational policies, be contributing team members, respect and seek to use the perspective of others, be dependable and ethical in their empowered actions, and demonstrate responsible self leadership. So, these are great expectations on the employees, and they should be trained, prepared for meeting these expectations. Expectations for the managers are identifying the issues to be addressed, specifying the level of involvement desired, like whether they should only contribute or give the decision and give their choices, but ultimate decision is taken by the organization, like for the process of implementation, or they are involved in the process of implementation also. Then providing relevant information and training for making them ready for participation, and allocating fair rewards for the employees who participate. So, these are the expectations for the managers. Some of the methods for implementing workers' participation in management are like co-partnership and co-ownership, workers' committee, joint management council, suggestions, board expectations or representations. So, we will discuss some of these in details. So, here what we see, like co-partnership or co-ownership is where you are jointly responsible for the decisions taken by the you are responsible, jointly responsible for the decisions taken for the organization, and to you decide codes like till what extent that you can participate in it. Then there is joint management council. These are bodies, representative bodies, which are there to find out till what is the matter regarding which decision is to be taken. Then who are the representatives in board representation? The workers are present, the worker director is present as a member of the board. So, these are certain different ways that we can see like how the participation is done. In consultative management is what in consultative management, the issues regarding the decision making, then share the expertise and contribute to the positively. Managers ask these things from the employees. They are asked to think about the issues, share their expertise and contribute their own ideas before a managerial decision is made regarding certain aspects of the organization. Suggestion programs are formal plans to invite individual employees to recommend suggestions and work improvements. So, in most companies what happens, the employees whose suggestions result in cost savings may receive a monetary reward and in proportion to the first year's savings. So, this is a company centric it's there in the system to ask for suggestions, and there is a proper Dropbox, or you can send the suggestions through emails also, and certain steps which requires to be done for work improvement. And if the suggestion works, then it leads to a reward. It is connected with a reward given to that particular employee. So, quality emphasis is for the to function. These are both union and non-union firms have organized groups of workers and the managers like into committees, which are generally called work committees, labor management committees, involvement teams, and work improvement task forces. These are variously named, which helps to discuss about the quality of the work done, how to maintain the quality of the process and the quality of the products developed, and how it is to be done in a better way, and how the whole process can be improved. So in this process, a greater the productivity can be improved at very large, because good communication develops between the employees. They can give their own views regarding the process, and that the process of how to do things becomes more of as if like we have suggested it and we have developed it. So that commitment comes, and the quality of the work and the product improves. So this is one of the broad usefulness of this whole process. Quality circles are voluntary groups that receive training in statistical techniques and problem solving skills, and then need to produce ideas for improving productivity and working conditions. So these are the important ways in how the productivity is improved. So, but it is again a continuous support is required from the top management, and this can be used for taking decisions about short term problems. So, and decisions should be taken for certain things which are within the quality circles work area. So, supervisors should facilitate the whole process. So, and we can take like this as one of the starting point for other participative approaches in the organization, which are of bigger nature. These quality circles are small groups within the department, and like which meet every time to decide on the problem at hand, how to take decisions about it, how to do things next, and what are the process for it, what are the good performance criteria for it. So these are the things which are taken care by the quality circles. When you're talking of total quality management, so this is a process which gets every employee involved in the process of searching for continuous improvement in their operations. So it is a formal program with direct participation of all the employees, and regarding anything in the subject matter could be anything, but it is a continuous process and it is of long duration. And this is a like everyday sort of learning regarding how to do things to maintain the quality and reduce the error part of it. So, and in continuous search for how to improve the process. So, this is total quality management, and this can be done regarding any issues at hand. Middle management committees are groups mechanism to improve participation of managers below top levels. So, so in this, these are the junior board of directors sort of. So these are they are taking decisions about any problems and recommending courses of action. So What it encourages is thinking about an idea, thinking about a particular problem, and at their own level, and to trying to find out the solutions for it at the level of the middle management, and finding out how to what are the ways of doing these things and arriving at a particular solution before they are presented to a top management. So, what that becomes, if these committees are there and the search is done at this level, then when it goes to the top management for decision making, then it is well researched, well informed sort of communication which goes, and the top managers can take decisions very quickly. It becomes easy for them if a well researched communication and with all the alternatives, whatever they are possible, it is possible for them to discover at their levels. These are given to the top management before these things move for their points of views on the particular issues. Self-managing teams are these are where it's beyond the consultative and democratic forms of participation. So, this is where a major number of major decisions are made by the employee groups. So, this is called semi-autonomous work groups or socio-technical teams, self-managing teams. These are variously named. So, where there is a large part of decision making autonomy. So, they are expected to control their own behavior with less of managerial control, and there's a reduced managerial control, and what happens. So, with this each of the members becomes more responsible for the decision making, but again it requires matured members to be a part of self-managed teams. Otherwise, it becomes somewhat a threat to the employee who is a part of this team, because you are responsible, you as a team member are solely responsible for the decisions that you make for the organization. Employee ownership plans are when it emerges when the employees provide the capital to purchase the control of an existing operation. So, it comes from clause where it generally comes when the firm is about to close, and what the employees take ownership of it and try to run the firm at their own risk. So, this is and they provide the capital to purchase the control of an existing operation. So, these are called employee ownership plans, which is generally true of marginally profitable plants. Guidelines for participation program success are letting employees progress from simple involvement in simple issues to more complex ones, to providing employees with relevant training, communicating in advance their areas of decision and freedom and the associated boundaries. These are very important. You have to make them aware of the associated boundaries. So, do not force the employees if they are not willing to participate in the decision making, because every employee may not be comfortable with the decision making process. Then providing counselors with the for supervisors, so that they will know how to handle the power sharing. Sometimes supervisors are not comfortable sharing powers with their employees. And so, never attempt to manipulate a decision under the guise of participation. Balance between under participation and over participation should be there. Then how employees are perceiving the empowerment, whether they are misusing it or not, these are also to be taken care of. Realistic goals for participation has to be set. So, we have to develop a philosophy for participation firmly. So, ethical use of this power. This is very important given to the employees, and how do we share those, how you are accountable for the decisions. These have to be well communicated to the employees for the success of a participation program. And the managers, they have a new role, is they should relinquish the role of judge and critic and begin viewing themselves as partners to the employees. Then they have to develop more human and technical resources. Then they have to communicate about the challenging goals and how to do things and monitor the resources. And so it shifts from that of the controller of resource, the role from controller of resources, and to that of servant leadership. So where they have to help others to reach their relevant goal while developing their skills and abilities. So there is a shift in the role of managers. It's more from direction to that of a coach, a mentor, where we are making our employees to develop so that they also become mature decision makers for the organization. Questions are: what is empowerment? Describe the process of empowerment. Write short notes on Randall's empowerment model. Strategic performance empowerment model. Then what is participation? What are the benefits of participation? And of course, like when you're talking of what are the expectations of employees and managers, what are the guidelines for proper participation, and what is the new role of manager, and what are the different programs for participation, and what are the contingencies for participation. Contingencies are very important. So when you are able to answer these questions, it will help you to develop a balanced idea of what is empowerment, what is participation, how it is to be done, to what extent, where do we have to stop, how do we have to guide, how to maintain a balance between over participation, under participation, what are the steps taken for empowerment, etc. And or if you have a realistic orientation to all these things, then it will obviously lead to employee development, employee progress, along with organization's performance. Thank you.